Excellent. Thank you for coming.
My name is Ming Hua. I also live in Holly. I'm interested in gardening in general.
Welcome.
So
Anyone
you're
else?
doing all of these? Oh.
I'm Dorothea. I live in North Park right now, and I'm looking to learn more about how to grow food.
Excellent.
Hi, my name is Nicole. I live in Mission House. I'm a student at CMFCAT, and I'm interested in edible gardens and permaculture.
Welcome. Is that everyone? Well, welcome, welcome. I'm really happy that you're here joining us tonight. One of the things that we are hoping to do for people that are coming to visit with us is pair you up with people of similar interest in the group that can introduce you to some of our members. You know, we are called the California Rare Fruit Growers, but rare fruit is a very subjective term. What's rare fruit? For people that live in the tropics, it might be an apple. For people who live in the northern climates, it might be a mango. So we really grow a little bit of everything. And there's people in our organization who have interest in every aspect of fruit growing. So rare fruit is not really accurate, other than it's always rare to someone somewhere. So we live in such a wonderful climate here in San Diego. It's really marvelous to see all the wonderful things that we can grow. One of the things that this organization is doing this year a little bit differently is that we are forming committees to try to get members involved to help make the organization more meaningful to you, the members, and to tackle some additional projects. Some of you have already seen those committees that we're forming. Those of you who are unfamiliar with them, the colored posters on the back wall tell you about what's going on and what their missions are, as well as there are lists of the members who have volunteered to participate in those committees. And if you have questions about them, the chairs of the committees are on the posters as well. We do have chair people for each of the committees that volunteered to staff at, and so what I'd like to do is thank all of those chair people, introduce them to you real quickly, and give them about a couple of minutes just to let you know what they are planning, what they're doing, or if they have any announcements. So with that, if I can get the chair people who are here to come on up and let me introduce you to our group. That would be wonderful. So they know how to know who the faces are with the names. Sometimes we have faces and our names, we don't always have faces. So, okay, of our committees, we have our Membership and Hospitality Committee. Cielo is our chairperson. So Cielo, you want to come on up and introduce yourself and have a couple of minutes?
Good evening. Good evening. I'm Cielo Foth, and I volunteered to chair the Membership and Hospitality Committee and also the special events. If you can't see me, that's too bad, because I am already standing. Anyway, Membership Committee. If this were a company, the Membership Committee and Membership and Hospitality Committee is what you would call the Customer Service Department. So if you have any issues with your membership, you have any questions with your expiration, you're not getting your CRFG fruit gardener, your newsletter, you would be talking to the customer care. So that would be our committee. So we hope to have you join us, and if you're a member, please always sign in at the membership desk. We need to track who's here and who's not, and it also helps us to know if members are renewing on time, and if you're up for renewal, if you're getting the newsletter by postal, always check your address labels. And so we're getting a lot of good turnout for people renewing on time, and that is great for the chapter because that helps pay for our operational costs. As far as as the special events committee, I've also volunteered to chair that. And we have 2 upcoming events, actually, the ones, it's only for members. The UC Riverside Citrus Collection field trip is on March 19th on a Friday. And so far we already have 16 members signed up for that. And so that will be closing shortly. So if you haven't signed up, or if you have signed up and you're kind of not sure, please let me know as soon as possible. The sign up is at the membership table. I've checked on a van. If you were to ride in a van pool, it would be about $15 per person. And that we would leave at 8 o'clock and be back by 4 o'clock. So it's an all-day event. And the other event is on March 27th, which is a Saturday. It's a avocado and loquat grafting workshop. It is a members garden in Mount Helix in the Mesa area. Since it is a private garden, we want to respect the privacy of our members, so please sign up. And I think we also have another upcoming event, and that will be in April. So we'll ask you to look at the newsletter and also visit the website for upcoming events. Thank you.
Thanks, Cielo. Along with Cielo and the Special Events Committee, Paul Fisher is co-chairing, and he's also in charge of our Ways and Means Committee, who are the folks who are going to help us to raise some funds so that we can do things like bus trips and events and make things happen. Unfortunately, our club was running on a deficit last year, and we need to fix that because this organization needs to, be able to break even at the very least in order to be a successful organization. So with that, Paul's going to help us out and find ways to help generate some funds to help our club progress. And this is Paul Fisher. Paul's with Cielo and on the special events, and also in charge of Ways and Means.
The Ways and Means Committee is something that I think I can be very helpful in. I've always wanted to do a lot of things with this group that we've never really pursued. There's a lot of discord on whether we should or shouldn't do it. But one of the first things we've decided on, that we've read through all the rules in this park that we have, that we are able indeed to allow vendors to come and finally assist the group. One of the reasons all of us join a group is not only to learn, but maybe to buy some supplies that we all need, plants, other things that we're interested in. Instead of having to drive all over the entire county, we will allow vendors with a special request form that we're going to give them to set up tables in the back of the room every meeting. We will, these requests will be gone through by the staff, and we will try not to have duplication. We don't want to have price wars and things like that. And the idea is that as long as the company has this kind of under a consignment basis and the company gets paid, but not the company, but the CRFG group here gets a percentage, which they said is 20% of what they sell, then the club prospers, and then we can start having our club not have to raise our dues, etc., which will have to happen if we don't, in the negative. So that's going to happen next meeting. We're going to have a special form out so people can put the request down what they'd like to bring here to sell. And like I said, we'll go through that. Excuse me. And that'll be the start with the Ways and Means. That's one of the first things we're going to do. We're going to be having special events, generating funds and different things throughout the year. So the group is just beginning. I thought the vendor thing would be one of the first things we can do, since a lot of you are going to need grafting tapes and all kinds of different supplies. And why drive all over and pay twice as much? There's no reason. It's going to be a very big benefit to everybody to have that here, and lots of find things to talk to people about and learn things from the vendors. Anytime we have a major event, one of the biggest things that's valuable to everybody is having the vendors there. They learn as much from the vendors as they do from the seminars. So that should help us out, and that's coming up next. And special events we're going to come up with it. Seattle and I will co-chair, and that'll all come later. Anyway, thank you very much.
Okay, Paul? If you have things that you would like to see us in the way of vendors, please put notes in the in the suggestion tree, and we'll get them to Paul. But that's a great way that we can get notes to the committee members. If you'd like to see things happen, if you want special products brought in, just put a note in the suggestion tree, and we'll get them to them. Next, I'd like to introduce Kevin Ford. Kevin is our Refreshments Committee Chair.
Hello, everyone. Everyone knows the refreshment table. Yeah. Today it looks really, really good, and I was holding back myself from kind of nibbling. So anyway, refreshment table is for everyone to enjoy. After the presentation, what we do ask is that it's all contribution. The club doesn't provide any of that. We ask the members and the visitors to contribute to that table. One thing I'm going to be asking each month is a block of people by first letter of last name to be specifically requested to bring in items for the table. That doesn't mean anyone else who wants to doesn't bring them in. You can bring them in anytime you want. But so for today, and you'll see that in the newsletter. Today I requested those members with the last name starting A through E to bring in items. Next month it'll be F through whatever 5 letters are. Don't know my alphabet that well. But you'll see that in the newsletter. And then we also have a sign-up sheet back there. If you do bring something in, please sign your name and what you brought so we can thank you in the next newsletter. All right? Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin, and thanks everyone for bringing the goodies tonight. Along with the things that you're all familiar with is our opportunity table, and so next I'd like to introduce Gustavo Reynoso, who is in charge of our opportunity table. Please make sure you see him for our opportunity tickets. Some really fun things up here. He is also a co-chair with the propagation committee, and along with Jim Neitzel. So Gustavo, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
I am Gustavo Reynoso. I'm going to let Jim talk about propagation, but as far as the opportunity table, we're selling the tickets $1 a piece, $65. See me anytime during the meeting, preferably before the meeting or as soon as the presentation's over. And that's pretty much it. $1 each or $65.
If they bring a plant, they get a free ticket.
Yeah, if you bring a plant, you get a free ticket. If you wear your badge, you also get a ticket. Thank you.
This has been a great way that the group has generated funds to help us operate, so thank you for everybody bringing those in. One of the things we will do too, hopefully, is have some raffles, and I'll let Gustavo tell you more about that when that happens. Our next chair that I'd like to introduce would be Jim Neitzel, who is the co-chair with propagation, along with Gustavo and Jim.
Okay, hopefully we'll have a lot of propagating to do in a couple days. Our rootstocks that we ordered haven't come in yet. When they do come in, they probably will look like these. This is M111 apple. See how easy that's going to be to ground? And this is Mariana rootstock, which is good for all the prunus. And we're getting two different kinds of peach. Probably this weekend we'll be potting up all kinds of rootstocks. And next year we're going to be ready. We'll have the stuff. We'll be growing it up and getting it. We had to scrounge around this time to get different rootstocks for the grafting demonstrations and so forth. Also, down at Southwestern College, we have facilities down there where we can store things, and some plants have been donated that we need to collect. And hopefully we can work at grafting up stuff and sweetening the pot up here on the raffle table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jim. He'll be one of our presenters tonight as well, so you'll see more of Jim in just a moment here. The next person I'd like to introduce is Eric Collins. Eric is in charge of our Community Outreach and Education Committee. And Eric?
Thanks. Hi, my name is Eric Collins, and I'm the new chair for the Community Outreach and Education Committee. We have a booth that's going to be set up on March 5th through the 7th at the Spring Home and Garden Show. It's going to be at the Del Mar Fairgrounds, so if you're there, feel free to stop by and say hi. Thanks to Cielo for getting all the volunteers together. And we've got another event coming up on it's March 20th. It's a Saturday, and it's going to be from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's the plant fair at the Water Conservation Gardens. And we need about maybe 2-3 volunteers for that. So we're going to have 2 shifts, one from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. and another one from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. So if you're interested, just see me at the break or at the end of the meeting, and we can always use more volunteers. So that's it. Thanks.
That's the Rancho San Diego Water Conservation.
Oh yeah, Rancho San Diego.
Pre-American College?
Yeah, it's right. I'm not sure if it's actually on the college, but it's right next to it. So
Out by the auto shop.
It's on the campus.
it's on the campus. Okay.
Thank you very much, Eric. We'll be having lots of other events coming up. We're getting more and more people asking us if we'd like to participate in different things, and we have to limit what we are able to participate in. But thank you to everybody who's willing to put out the word and let people know who we are and how to join us. Our next chair that I'd like to introduce is David Long, who is in charge of our Philanthropy and Education Committee. And if you just want to come and introduce yourself, Dave.
Good evening, everyone. I'm not exactly sure what we're going to be doing as far as the Philanthropy Committee goes. I just want to be honest about that. This is just now forming up. But I also know that everyone feels passionate that the wishes of Paul Thompson and the gift that he gave to our chapter be used to the best of his wishes, and that's the goal that I set for us. I want our committee to get together and work to create something that's going to continue beyond us, so that it's ongoing and will go forward. So I want to ask those who signed up for our committee, I have a list of them here. I don't need to read it, but if you're here, please see me after our meeting tonight. Get something to eat, and we can sit around and we'll work on getting together our schedules so that we can start working together to find out what's the best way to approach this, because it is going to be a complicated, and we want to make sure we do it right. So I want all the ideas, and I want everybody there that can participate in it. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave. 2 more, and then we'll get going. So, a lot of good people that are willing to help us out here. We have 2 botanical gardens that we are involved in, and in charge of the Botanical Garden Committee is Andy Sakinen. Did I pronounce it right, Andy? Sakinen, close. And so this is Andy, and I'll let him introduce himself and tell you what's going on with our Botanical Garden Committee.
Hello. It's a great asset for the club to have growing ground available to us. On March 20th, we're going to be having the planting party at South Bay Botanical Garden on Southwestern College, or University College, Southwestern College. That's a new space, so we also will need some planting material. So if members have trees or other plants that they would like to donate for the club, as was mentioned, we also can use some propagation stuff there. We can store stuff. So the committee will be working on building and continuing these relationships with these two organizations, and seeing how we can succeed with the ground that we have available.
Thank you, Andy. The botanic gardens are wonderful for everybody to get to see what these things are. People that don't have room to grow plants can enjoy them, not just those who own them in their backyard. So great opportunities for us. And our last chairperson, and by no means our least important, but certainly a valuable asset to our club, is Aaron St. John, and Aaron is in charge of our chapter bylaws committee. And I'm going to let him tell you what's going on with that.
Okay, well, the bylaws, also known as the SOP&R, Standard Operating Procedure and Rules and so on. We had one 3 years ago that was voted in, and during the last administration, it was suggested that we take another look at that and see if there are adjustments that need to be made. And a committee was put together, and we did make some proposals, and the board has not had a chance to adopt that and look it over, so we've established another committee to actually look at what we've done and evaluate that and see what should be proposed to the membership. And when that's all done, then it'll be presented to the membership, and then you guys get to vote and approve it or make suggestions. So there are, I think, about 5 people on the committee now, and I have been actually distracted with my own garden. I just put in some water harvesting tanks, and that's put everything else kind of behind. So I'm notorious for not looking at my email as often as I should, but I will now be looking more diligently, and we'll be setting up a time for the members to meet real soon, and we'll get this underway and hopefully put it to bed, and then we can move on. So I'm guessing this committee probably will not be a long-standing committee, but we'll be available when needed. So, thank you. Questions?
For bylaw, do we have our own bylaw, or we follow parent organization's bylaw?
There are both. There are bylaws of the state, but each chapter also can institute its own.
So we do have our own bylaw.
We do. We do. And yeah, and as I mentioned, they were voted upon, and they are the ones that are standing now.
The SOP is not bylaw, is it?
It is.
It performs.
But it's bylaw is the non-profit organization bylaws. I don't think it's SOP. SOP is standard operation.
Our chapter called it SOP&R, but it's basically the chapter bylaws. All the other chapters
You mean
call
the
them
definition, why?
bylaws.
Bylaws for SOP.
For whatever reason, our chapter called it SOP&R, and it was ratified in June of 2007.
So however it ends up being called, or whatever you want to call it now, the purpose of it is to give the body rules under which to operate. So if there are any questions come up as to whether this is appropriate or not appropriate, you can read, and these are posted on the internet also on our website. So
But I saw the bylaw, when you apply for the non-profit organization 503C, you have to submit the bylaw. I'm not sure if we submit the bylaw when we,
CRFG did,
but not our chapter.
because our chapter is not recognized as such. It is only CRFG Inc.
So there's one or two or more for bylaw.
these might be good questions to submit to the question tree,
I just
and then the committee will take them up.
Yeah, please, let's put that in the suggestion box, question tree, and we'll look into it to find out exactly. But thank you, Aaron. You know, my feelings are that our bylaws, or SOP, however you wish to name it, could use some update. And if anybody has things they'd like to see adopted, please put it in the suggestion box. But again, this is our committees. They're a great group of volunteers, and the organization runs on volunteers, along with our officers and our other volunteer persons in charge, our webmaster, our librarian, our newsletter editor. It's a great group of people. I thank everyone for volunteering, and give them a big round. Thank you so much. have all of the volunteers on the committees on the back table. You're welcome to take one of those. If you would like to sign up for a committee and haven't done so yet, there's clipboards in the back. You're more than invited to sign up for a committee and participate. And if you have any questions on that, you can see me or any of our chapter people here. Just a couple of things before we get started. On our speaker, I would like to let people know that Ted Niffing is having a rare fruit tasting, carne asada, potluck, and speaker presentations on Saturday, March 13th. Niffing's Nursery up at Oak Creek Road in Lake Jennings area. From noon to 1, he's having a carne asada potluck up there, and then several speakers will be presenting. Tom Caruth from Weeks Roses, Tom Spellman will be there from Dave Wilson Nursery, Steve Godot, who is a tomato and vegetable expert, will be there, and I'll be talking on drought-tolerant fruit at that same presentation. At this point, I'd like to open up the floor to any announcements or anything that the members would like to share or have that they would like to make a brief announcement to the group. Dave Sohn.
I am our chapter greeter. I'm Dave Sohn. I requested a few books for Christmas from my wife, and I would like to show them these. This is a pretty neat little book, The Grafter's Handbook. It has a lot of stuff from the Royal Horticultural Society in England. It runs about $20. The little pamphlet here is from Story Publishing. It's like $4, basically on grafting. And then this is about $35. It's pruning and training, and it adheres to the practices which Tom teaches in his classes at Southwestern, which is very good. So it's pretty well updated and talks a lot. If you buy the 3 of them online, you get a discount, and you can get free freight, I believe, on the books. I'm not plugging the company, you know, the bookseller or anything, but they're wonderful books. Any of you that would like to take a look at them, especially this grafting book, I've been learning a lot from it. And for pruning and training, this is quite a wonderful volume also. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Hi, Jude.
Hi, I'd just like to remind everybody that we will have a work party at San Diego Botanic Garden, formerly Quail Botanic Garden, and that will be the second Saturday of next month. We have a lot of things going on there that I need to tell all of you about, so hope some of you can show up. Thank you. And it's from about 8:30 till 1 is what we used to do.
8:30 to 1, great. One of the things we hope to do is have some joint projects with North County. The Botanic Garden is definitely one of them that we are already involved with North County, and thanks to June for being our liaison with North County and with Botanic Garden up there, San Diego Botanic Garden now. So it's a great opportunity. That's a wonderful, wonderful collection of fruit trees. Those of you who haven't had a chance to see it or experience it, and they're doing some nice updates too, so it's going to be a real fun project for a lot of people. Anyone else like to make an announcement? Without further ado then, our presentation tonight is on grafting, and so I'm going to introduce John Verdick, who we met last month, and Jim Naito, who are going to share the presentation for you, and let's welcome them.
Still need parafilm. I brought some again tonight.
That's an excellent little CD.
This is a CD that was put out by Orange County chapter on grafting. If you want to take it home with you, $20. You bring it back, you get your $20 back.
And you can buy them through the chapter, through the North County chapter for $10. Wonderful.
If you want to practice on grafting tonight, I brought in a bunch of just junk twigs and brought a grafting knife and stuff, and we can whittle and play, and you can practice on these before you scrape your tree at home. Then I'm talked about rooting figs last time. These are some twigs I started just a few days before our last meeting. Now I did these a little differently than what we talked about last time. So these are in plastic bags. They take up less space. They're still clear so you can see what's going on. But I've always thought if you had a little organic material in with your perlite, it would help them root. And I've seen some studies of using other chemical treatments to do that. The problem was that you put in the little plastic cups that you get at Starbucks or wherever, the stuff sticks like elephant snot to the side of the cups. You can't get them out. So these I can cut with a X-Acto knife down the side and take it right out of there. So it does the same thing, but now I have a little bit of added inducement to form the roots in there by putting the organic material in with it. So I brought 3 or 4 of these in. If you want to take a look at them, I'll show them to you. Please don't touch them. Lastly, before Jim starts, the slides we're going to show tonight came from 3 different events. We started, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago. I just spent an afternoon over at Jim's place and just taking pictures of anything and everything. And so some of those were pictures of successful grafts that he had done over the years, and some of those will be in here. Then we took pictures at the Bonita Creek Nursery 3 years ago now. Jim was doing some mango grafting down there. And so I tagged along, took my camera, and took a whole lot of pictures, and they turned that into a presentation at the Festival of Fruit, I think 3 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago. So some of those pictures are going to be in there tonight also. And then finally, a week and a half ago, I told Jim, I said, just bring some sticks, come over and park yourself on my driveway, and we'll take, you can whittle and I'll take pictures and we'll have something to show the people there. So, remember last month we had just a whip and tongue that we had done, so this is another copy just like that. And I think we'll pass these around. On this one we did a chip bud and a tea bud, and there'll be pictures of all these things, so, but you can kind of get a hands-on feel for it. I don't remember what we did on that one. That might have been a whip and tongue also. Oh, I know, this one was a saddle graft. And this was a whip and tongue, which is quite useful. This has a bark graft and a bark inlay graft, two different styles done on one piece of wood.
Good for top working.
So I'm going to let Jim talk. I might butt in a few times, but this is how these different pictures came about. So some of them are kind of, it's not an even flow necessarily between all the pictures because they came from these different sources with different rootstocks, different types of wood that we were using, and so on. I don't remember what this was. Oh, and was this a big piece of?
Big piece of fig, I think.
I think this was mulberry, maybe. Yeah. Anyway, so the point wasn't to necessarily demonstrate that you could graft an avocado or a peach or a pear, but to show you the different techniques that you use in grafting, and then what the different scenarios are, why you use this one, why you use a different one, when you use this one, and so on. So with that, I'll let Jim have it, and I'll get out of here.
One thing that I'll just mention while John is setting up, most of you probably have received your fruit gardener. In it, next month we're going to do cherimoyas and atemoyas. And if you peruse a couple of articles that they have in this issue, it enlightens you about the different type of anonas and you know, where they're from and why we hand pollinate very often and stuff like that. Anyhow, hopefully we'll have next month fruit to sample. Maybe we'll set up a visitation of a pretty good sized planting and do some grafting and whatnot.
Can you all hear okay?
I don't know, should I use the speakers?
The light show.
on one so we can write. There you go.
That's fine.
That's probably pretty good. Anyhow, there, John put the green tape or the white grafting tape, you know, the plastic tie, the green plastic tie, that works good for wrapping your original wrap. And then above the wrap on your sign piece, you want to cover it with parafilm or with other substances, you know, that you can daub on to prevent them from drying out. With evergreen things like mangoes and so forth, we also do bagging with a plastic bag, a moist paper towel inside of that, and a paper bag with some holes cut in it to prevent the evergreen things, the tropicals and so forth, from having the sign dry out. Your grafting knife or your X-Acto knife, the little ridge up there on top is for budding. When you do your T-buds, you can poke in your cut with that and lift up the two flaps to slip the bud underneath. Budding you have to do when the bark is slipping. In other words, your citrus or whatever is in active growth, starting to grow. Otherwise the bark won't slip and you have to do a chip bud with the wood inside. With the regular tea budding, if you have a bud stick of citrus with maybe 6 good buds on it, you get 6 little trees out of that by just slipping in that little shield with the bud on it underneath the tea bud, the bark. There are different places where you can get your knives. Leonard something.
A.M. Leonard.
A.M. Leonard?
A.M. Leonard.
Okay. Carries knives, and also I know at the City Farmers Nursery, off of Euclid, I believe it is, they carry quite a few grafting supplies.
Also, Walter Anderson's carries grafting supplies.
Right.
And also Grand Ghetto's in Escondido.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Grand Ghetto's carries a lot of stuff.
The point of the couple pictures back with the X-Acto knife is, if you have a very sharp, fresh blade, and you're not doing heavy work, with fairly small pieces, that works very well. And it's a whole lot cheaper than buying a grafting. So if you want to play around, do it, but make sure you got a brand new, fresh, sharp blade.
And Jim, one thing else, you don't have to mention any of those prices anymore. It's all gonna be here.
Okay.
Anywhere else, it'll be all here.
Okay.
There you go.
Okay, next. Oh, the envelope, John?
How many of you have junk mail at home?
What?
That's a junk mail envelope. You can use that to shade your graft to keep the sun off it while it heals and grows together. You just cut the end of it off, slip it over there, tie it on, and that provides a sunshade for your material until it gets healed in so that it has good contact with the rootstock. You don't have to buy anything fancy, you can just take a piece of printer paper and fold it over and staple it on if you want. Again, you can be cheap.
I know Leo Manuel oftentimes will just take a piece of paper that he has messed up or whatever and just sort of rolls it up and ties it at the bottom and then folds it over, and then he can peer in and see if this mango graft has taken. He'll do that too. Okay, matching the rootstock and the sign in girth. This is important because what you need to do is match the little layer underneath the bark of both of those so that they will callus and meld and become as one, you know, that cambium cylinder. So, usually by having the same girth, you're going to have pretty similar cambium layer too. Sometimes it'll be sort of wacky. Some bark will be thick and some bark will be thin, your younger bark especially. Okay, the simple splice graft is used for a lot of things, and it basically is good enough for many items. But you can see, you could almost do this with the pruning shears and then just sort of do a little neat whittling on it, and minor whittling, and you'd have it. But the added step of putting in the back cutting from the tips to make a whip and tongue graft is one that we very much preferred. Okay, there you have your two pieces, and they're matching in length. And if you're going to do a whip and tongue, you go down like a quarter from the tip, and I draw the knife across and then try to cut down without the blade slipping off and, you know, just losing everything. You have to be a little bit careful to cut back towards the face surface, pull the edge of the knife a little bit towards you. John calls this lick and stick because sometimes I'll just, for moisture, stick it in my mouth. Now I'm trying to get a little bit more etiquette-ish and dip it in a cup of water. So that's the one end. I've cut down with a knife, and then sometimes you can go ahead and wrap it with the parafilm, or when you finish with the wrapping of the green tape, then go ahead and anything that's still exposed to the cyan, wrap that up. The parafilm is great because it stretches so nicely. The warmth of your thumbs and fingers make it more pliable, and you can really, a 4-inch piece of that is enough usually to cover your whole cyan.
A lot of times it's real easy to wrap this cyan because you can twirl it between your fingers, roll it around, and put the parafilm on. After you've got it put together, then you've got to kind of fight it. It's in a funny angle or a funny place or up on a ladder or wherever. So this is just, you do it ahead of time. You get all your cuts made, get it all fit, ready to go together. Then you can wrap it, then stick it together. All you do is tie it.
Okay, so that's wrapped and ready to slip together, and then it interlocks. And you get like the sign of Zorro cambium contact, like a Z, you get lots of cambium contact. And you don't need 3 hands to wrap it. It's there and pretty much in position, and it's very easy to wrap. Just get your wrap started below the graft, and then work on up. Okay, there is preparing a mango cyan for the whip and tongue. I've made quite a long cut, and then I just go like a quarter of the way down from the tip and draw the knife across to get a bite, and then work it down, rocking the blade. You don't have to use any force that way by just rocking the blade. And then you do the same thing with the rootstock. And there it is, slipped together, and then wrapping it, and you've got lots and lots of cane contact. What do we have here?
That's a year later, but it's.
Oh, okay. I also have a mango up here, a graft that you can look at, which is the saddle graft. And I think there's a whip and tongue on that cherimoya.
And here you can see the cambium sealed together, the new tissue. The wound is almost invisible. Another year, you're not even going to see that anymore.
Yeah, it makes a very strong union. There you can see better. That's cherimoya. And you can see all the callousing that builds up. A lot of times the callousing is really big at the end of the tips of your tubes. Your grafts anyhow. I think sometimes that's where the callousing and the mildew starts first. Okay, the saddle graft, which is sort of like an upside down cleft graft or wedge graft. But many times I will slip my knife in there and widen out and narrow the ends, the two ends that way, so that it fits almost flush on the rootstock base of the cut. That also gives lots of contact, and it's so easy. You just make a wedge, a sharp point on your rootstock, and split your scion piece. And if you want to reverse your blade and remove a little bit of wood on both halves, you can get a beautiful union.
Jim, is it any difference which way you cut it? Did you do it the other way? Work it well?
Well, you know, I figured that this way I don't have to do much trauma to the scion piece. And if I only have one or two buds, I don't want to do a lot of whittling on the scion piece. I'd rather do it on the rootstock. And sometimes...
Yeah, you can reverse it. Okay. You can reverse it.
Cambium to cambium.
Yeah.
And now,
We'll get the reverse in a minute.
And there you can see how closely, nicely it fits together. And then just bag it and paper bag over the bag with some white paper towel inside the plastic bag. And 2, 3, 4 weeks later, you've got another tree. And there I am widening the base, or thinning the tips down anyhow, so that it really is almost imperceptible, the union. My little much-used pointed, narrow-bladed knife comes in handy now. And there it's ready to wrap. By getting the parafilm started below the graft and then just working way up, and you just keep stretching it as you wrap around. One little piece of parafilm will cover a lot. And I guess
Jim, I like it you talk about that, because on phone you told me and I did not understood it. This is very important to me, because you put a paper bag on the top of the plastic bag.
Okay.
And did you put something inside also?
Okay, here's some moist paper toweling. A lot of times, Leah will just sort of wrap it around here, some white paper toweling, and then cover it in a plastic bag. This plastic bag is enormous, I don't know why. But this is done at David Archer's. He's got a different system where he blows in air and whatnot. And then pulling a paper sack with some holes torn in it over that so that the sun doesn't make that into a
Plastic bag.
a steam house, too hot. That keeps it.
That plastic bag should not have any hole. That paper bag has to some hole.
Should have some holes for the air circulation.
Thank you.
And here
The
you
point of the
see-
plastic bag is to make a greenhouse
Yeah. There you
in
see
place
buds
so
starting
that
to
you can
come
keep
out.
your scion moist until it has a chance to heal. Some things that are soft like mango dry out really, really fast before they have a chance to heal together. So by putting the plastic bag over it, you're creating a little greenhouse to keep that thing, and with a little moist piece of paper in it, that keeps it moist until it has a chance to heal. And the brown bag over top of that is keeping the sun off of it so it doesn't get too hot.
But that's for the season when the weather is hot, isn't it true?
Yeah, but the sun is hot here oftentimes. I mean, we sometimes have summer in February, certain days.
You're right.
And that clear plastic, it creates what you're all familiar with as a greenhouse effect. It doesn't have to be hot out, but when the sun goes through there, it'll bounce around and heat up, and it'll cook your scion. So you have to shade it, otherwise you'll have cooked grass.
Can we bring some the tree from somewhere? You know the grafting part. Can we bring it? Like my friend's house had, and I have the mangoes right here. Could I bring that piece and bring it home and grab it?
We're going to do a workshop at someone's home, I believe, later on with the mango. Is that what you were asking about?
Yeah.
I would suggest that anybody that has access to a nice cyan piece here or there from some friend, go to Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace and pick up one of those manila mango trees that Lover Nursery sells them. I think it'll cost you probably about $20, and try grafting, because it's not very difficult.
So, how long can a scion piece sit ungrafted?
Well, it probably can sit a week or so, but I would say that with avocado and mango and so forth, the sooner the better, probably.
If you wrap them in moist paper towels and keep them in your fridge, how long will they last?
A lot of it will last several weeks, but and I think your deciduous stuff will last several months that way. Okay, and there it is bagged. Now I don't use this big bag and so forth. Normally this is down at David Archer's nursery in Bonita Creek Nursery. Okay. Here you see the callousing, especially a lot of callousing down here. That means that the cambiums have melded together, and this, if this starts it, then it gives the rest of the cyan piece a long time to also callus and meld together. That graph looks exaggeratedly long. I don't know why I did it that long, but anyhow. It worked very nicely.
wood about 1.5 inches long with one bud on it. So if you were to do a cleft graft, where you put the wedge on the bottom and put the little pointy piece on the top and stick it in there, you'd end up trimming off your bud and you'd have nothing. But by putting it upside down as a saddle graft, the one bud is still on your piece of scion, and you get the full length of your scion to let it heal together. So this is one of those situations where you look at, should I do a cleft graft or should I do a saddle graft? Well, this is the place for a saddle graft, because that's what your scion piece will allow you to do.
That's why it's nice to tinker around, experiment, examine the different kinds of grafts, and different situations would lead you to do different types of grafts. Okay, the wedge or cleft graft is sort of the reverse of the saddle graft. And this also is a very long pointed piece slipped in the split. Okay, chip budding. You can do budding of things with just a shield bud, with nothing but that little shield and a bud, slipping it under the bark. If your bark is slipping, you just cut a T and lift the two shoulders and slide the bud underneath it. But chip budding, you cut out a chunk of bark and wood and replace it with a same size chip that has a bud on it. This happens to be mulberry, so the bud is pretty large. And that's where you're going to replace the cutout piece with the chip bud that was just cut from another desired piece of scion wood, bud wood.
Did it have to be a bud there also in the
No.
rootstock?
No.
And generally, this is put in where there is no bud. Here you can see the cutout right here.
But how can come without a bud? You said no bud.
No bud in the part of the rootstock that is going to receive the bud. It doesn't matter if you don't have to locate it right where there was a bud that you're going to cut out. You can just put it someplace on the branch. But when you cut out your buds, your chip bud, that has to have a bud on it.
Jim, do you ever have to worry about putting too many chips on a single branch or a certain little area? Do you stress out the plant by trying to put too many chips in an area?
You know, I think people usually are only going to use one, and this is good to do on grapes, and so you do it down low, and a lot of fruit trees, young fruit trees, the rootstock do it down low, and then once it's taken, you just cut off the rest of the tree to force it out to become the new tree.
If you want to put multiple chips on a branch just to hedge your beds, and you want to put more than one, space them out along the branch and spiral them. If you remove the chips out of the rootstock all the way around, you'll girdle your branch and it'll die. So you need to spread them out and spiral them, and yes, you can put more than one on if you wish, and get either multiple branches developing or have greater chance that if one doesn't take, another one will.
You need to make sure that the bud is facing the same direction as the plant too, I assume.
Orientation has to be maintained, yes. You have put it in upside down, it's not going to grow.
It's not.
Jim, would this work for citrus?
It may. I know Leo has grafted just regular whip and tongue and cleft graft and so forth on citrus. But budding is so nice, so easy when the bark is slipping. And I found that you can make your bark slip, like if you want to stump a tree or you want to completely topwork a tree, like a sapote or avocado or something, you can saw it off, and then 2-3 weeks later, you'll start to see signs of some little buds wanting to sprout. You can cut your strip and pull out the bark strip. It'll be about so thick many times, and slip in a bark inlay graft. Your bark will slip a lot of times by just having, whacked the tree off.
And here you see Jim inserting the chip bud into the space that was moved.
This is really elementary, but when do you know when your bark is slipping?
Just cut a T and try to lift the two shoulders.
So it means that, I actually just don't know what that term means. It means when you can lift the bark away?
You cut a T, okay, and then you put your end of your knife or that little hump in there, and if you can pull the bark away and lift up those two flaps so you can slip your bud underneath them.
The bark is slipping when it separates from the wood cleanly, like peeling a banana. It should peel away easily and separate cleanly without adhering to the wood.
Usually when you see your citrus trees start to pop out new growth and bloom, the bark is going to be slipping. And during the summer months you can
One question here popped up. About this fan and similar to that fan, if you add a wood glue or some type of glue, is necessary or not? Because somebody uses wood glue and cover it when you cut it someplace with wood glue. What do you think about that?
Some people have used Elmer's glue covering the graft instead of sort of a...
No, Jim, he's saying to glue it on.
Glue it on or cover you cut a place. But when you cut the place, the water comes out and has damage. But you can cover it with a mud, that's the easiest way. Or you can cover it with a wood glue, or you can make a little flower and water in, same as glue, and cover it. How about you think about that?
Well, I probably would have to tinker with that before I would go that way. I know with the chip budding of grapes, that a lot of times they do it down low and then they bring the soil back up over that to keep it protected and moist. Okay. Tea budding. This is so neat because if you see the people do it for the nurseries commercially, you wonder how in the hell they can move that fast and do so many in an hour. But they do it on young seedlings, and the bark is slipping nicely. See, the bark has lifted there, and you just slip your bud under both flaps of that T, and if the bark lifts, you can slip a bud underneath. Citrus is a lot easier. We were making do with some pretty big mulberry stuff here. And they're starting to slide it under the two shoulders, you see how the two flaps lift up?
Go down, go down.
And then with the blade of my knife, I put the back of my knife right here.
Next time.
To push it.
Push it down.
And just push it down.
One more.
Right.
He's actually using the knife to push the bud up underneath the bark.
Here's the bark here that he's slipping it under.
Okay, right up there. See the T goes, this is the top of the T and that's going down. This is upside down.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because it looked like the bud's going down.
And then the
Pushing the bud up in this picture.
once it is about here, maybe you want to just cover the cross at that same line.
But this is upside down, actually.
Yeah, it's upside down there.
It's upside down.
That was the advantage of not having that branch on a tree. Hold it down low. And now he's got it all the way in there, and he had a little piece left yet, so he just trimmed it off even with the top of the T cut. So that it'll snap down in where the bark was on the rootstock.
Hey, Jim?
Uh-huh.
Question. In preparing the bud, do you remove the wood from behind the bark?
I've read about it, I've seen it discussed and so forth, only for a few things. Usually just leave the wood in.
All right.
The wood helps give it some stiffness, so it's easier to slip under the bark.
Okay.
You remove that, oftentimes it'll fold and be damaged.
With citrus, it's nice to leave part of the petiole so you have a stem along with your bud.
Yeah.
You know, you have a little handle.
Now you see him sealing that so it doesn't dry out.
When do you choose, I saw in the past with the mango, you had wrapped one with the paraffin versus using this as.
You know, I might want to put just a little bit of parafilm right over the bud and then avoid wrapping over the bud with the green tape. But
Buds will not grow through that green tape, so the advantage of the paraffin is the bud will grow right through it.
yeah, it just pops right through.
The advantage of the green tape is it's stronger and you can pull it real tight.
Yeah.
Make sure your pieces fit real tight together.
Get it.
You can't do that with paraffin, it stretches, but then it reaches the point where it just disappears.
One question here popped up. Can we wrap it on the tag with a rope to save it or hold it stronger than that? Because
You
this
don't need
tape
it.
is a possibility popped up.
No, you don't need it. That tape is very strong.
It's strong, okay.
Green tape is very strong. The
Because it
TNT, you
stretches.
can go back and wrap it, you know, and not a second wrap.
But typically, you'd have a bud that was a lot smaller than that if you were working with a or plum or beach or pear or something.
Okay, here's a little citrus bud that you can see the calyces here and across here, and it popped out a little bud, little shoot, and then the leaf miners did their number on many of the leaves, and so it's still pretty puny. I gotta get it in the ground now and really make that thing grow. Then this I can cut this off. I cut it off here, and then train this up against on this to get it growing straight, and then I'll have a nice little desirable citrus tree.
Quick testimonial. 4, 5, 6 years ago, Jim did a bud graft on a seedling avocado we had. We thought we were doing an embryo bud. I'll use it, but right now it's got avocados that big and it's 12 feet tall. And so when the bud took hold, then I just cut the seedling off above the bud, now it just goes straight up. Straight up the tree.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to find out what they are because they're getting huge. These avocados are pear-shaped. They're about so big now, and they still look like they're 4 or 5 months from being ripe. Yeah, those of you that know knew Dr. Mitchell way long ago, he had several avocado, big varieties, Linda and Nimlio and a few others. This must be one of the others that Dick and Alice have now.
John, how much more do you use? Not much, maybe 10 or 12. Okay, so this is your bark inlay graft, correct?
Yeah, okay. Pretend this tree is growing sideways. No, it should be like that. If you stump an avocado or a sapote tree and you want to really put in 3-4 varieties, this is how you can do it. You can stump something and then leave it for a while, and pretty soon the bark is going to slip. When the bark slips, get it. If the scion piece is like 1/4 of an inch wide, then you make 2 parallel cuts down your bark with a good sized knife blade, and then you lift that thick bark, and then you have your scion piece that is the same width as that recess, and you remove the bark on one side.
You'll notice that you're dealing with 2 different sized pieces of wood here. That's one of the problems you run into in grafting. You have a small piece of wood and a large rootstock, or as Jim said, if you're stumping a tree, you're cutting it down to the stump because you want to change it over to something different than what it used to be. So now you have a scion that's maybe 1/4, maybe a 1/2 inch in diameter, but you got a tree that's 1 inch or 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 inches in diameter. So you can't do a splice graft or a whip and tongue or something where the pieces have to be equal.
Or this is good for larger branches on your tree also.
Then you got a mismatch. He shapes one side down kind of flat to fit against the large rootstock that he has. He's got a little chamfer on the end to help push it underneath the bark.
I usually cut off from this other side, the tip, sort of like your fingernail, so that slides under that tab of heavy bark that I'm going to. Of course, here you can see how I cut away a little bit of a wedge, and then I slide that into the groove.
Go down.
And then that's going to fit. Sometimes I'll take a little brad and nail in, and then cut this thick bark off about here and wrap it.
So you would cut off the bark right about where your little fingernail clip is.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, leave like maybe 1/2 inch or something.
Where does the cambium contact?
Jim, did
Right
you
up
say
here.
I nailed that?
This is cambium right here on your rootstock, and that's on the flat cut of your sign. Now the important thing you have to notice that the wood is roundish or oval, the cut is flat. So you have to make sure this scion is small in comparison with this branch, otherwise the cambium is held apart. So this scion has to be pretty small so that the region it occupies is relatively flat.
And your cambium is exposed by lifting that flap
Only
of
the
bark.
very edges.
The bark.
Question.
The bark.
If we put this wood completely in the center.
There's no cambium in the center.
No cambium.
No?
No cambium.
Has to go under the bark.
The cambium is this narrow little area between the bark and the wood.
Yeah.
I see.
When you make a cut on a branch, you'll see a dark green line right where the wood and bark meet. That is the cambium.
And where the bark pulled off, that exposed the cambium.
What is that called? What kind of graft are
I call that bark inlay.
Bark inlay, okay.
It's a bark graft or a bark inlay graft.
Is it done at a different time of the year than we would be doing the dormant ones that we're doing now with the wicket chunk?
This one you'd have to do, well, as I said, by stumping something that, or cutting it back, that sort of obliges the tree to go into sort of a growth cycle. But, you know, normally with avocados, you'd be doing this in the early spring.
The bark must be slipping, and as Jim says, when you see a growth flush, it's generally slipping. Stump it, wait for the new growth, and then it's generally slipping. You stump it in the middle of December and you have a peach tree, it's not going to slip. It has to be growing.
And that could be the end of a branch rather than stumping the way.
Could be the end of a branch.
Right.
Would you recommend if you've stumped a tree that you only put one graft on?
No, a lot of times I'll put, if it's a real big thing, I'll put more and then nip back the growth on most of them, and that helps to heal over. But one of them, the one that you select to be the top of your tree, or you could have a multiple stem, but then chances are it'll be a weak crotch. So by having 2-3 grafts take off, it heals over your wound a lot faster, and you just have to sort of monitor. The shoot that portions out that you select to be the new treetop, you better stake that one because a wind will come along and pop it out.
This is another version. This is the bark graft. We'll go through a few slides and then we'll break up into groups here. So here's.
Okay, the bark graft, there's just one cut, and you lift one of the shoulders. For this one, I've done it where you lift both shoulders and slide a centuries under too. But this is one that Julie Frank likes to do with avocados. By cutting your scion piece into sort of a wedge sideways also, one edge being thicker than the other one. Okay, this is the thin edge.
Sort of cut it into a sort of a flat triangle.
Yeah. And then the thicker portion of bark will be on this side, and the more angled side will slip under the bark nicely, that flap of the bark that's lifting. And then you can wrap it, and a lot of times people paint over the top.
That's both your inlay and your bark graft together. Again, Jim was saying you might do 3 or 4 or 5 on a branch that size, and that way you get one of them takes your good, 2 or 3 of them take it, you can pick the one that seems to be growing the best.
And just nip back the others and let them grow some to heal over your wound faster.
So what do you paint it with? Can you just any paint?
Latex.
White latex.
Thin latex.
Paint is good.
So, okay, acrylic latex? No problem.
Paint is good.
Thin latex.
Thin.
Paint is good.
Yeah. White latex paint.
Latex paint only.
Latex.
But don't get it.
Thin at about 50%.
Don't
It's
get
a
it-
whitewash, more or less.
Don't get it down in your graft
Inside.
inside union. You might want to use some parafilm to wrap carefully and plug it up so that won't happen. Okay.
All right, so Jim is going to point out where the stations are. We're going to have about another 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, we'll show some demonstrations, and then we'll come back together, talk about a few of the raffle prizes, the opportunity prizes we have up here, and then we'll take a break. So, Jim, where do you want people to meet? And where?
Okay, let me point out one thing first. We were going to also talk about what to do with your grape cuttings. And here's a Venus grape from last year that maybe we can put on the table over there. It's ready to be put into a couple of eyes and trained up. But you want to put like 2 or 3 nodes underground and maybe a couple above ground. So you just put it like that in some nice light soil and set it off in some partial shade. Just keep it moist, and pretty soon you start to get some growth. One of these buds is going to take off, and you've got a nice break.
Jim, do you taper cut the bottom of your scion piece?
I just try to cut it below a node.
Just cut it square off, or do you angle the cut?
Sometimes I'll angle it, but I don't think it's that important.
Doesn't matter.
Can you start more than one scion of a grape in a pot? Are the roots are they sturdy enough if you took them apart later on?
You can, in the wintertime, knock it out and pull off the soil and they're rooted and planted, sure.
I do several in a pot, Dave, and then when they start to grow, I just detangle them.
Okay.
You want to do something really clever, you got several things growing in a pot, that's got all the roots grown together. Get a big tub and fill it with water. Stick the thing in the water, let it soak for a little while, and gradually kind of shake it and wiggle it, and the roots will, because of the water, will float apart rather than trying to fight and pull apart.
Okay, John, are you going to do grafting over here? John's over here. Jim, you going to be over here? Okay.
How moist does the grape cuttings have to be to plant again?
Jim?
Because I just cut some yesterday and they're pretty hard.
You know, I don't think you want to keep anything real wet because then you don't have aeration. But if you have a light mix,
I meant the cuttings themselves, because I just cut some yesterday and they're pretty stiff.
oh, I store mine sometimes in a bucket of water if I don't get at it right away. But it's best to go ahead and get them in the ground and set them off someplace in partial shade. And
Paul, were you going to do some grafting? Where do you want to be? You want to go back in this corner over here? So we're going to have Paul back over here in this corner. We're going to have John over here. We'll have Jim over here. And I have a big stump that I'm going to top work here for you over here. So we'll have 4 stations. Let's take about a 10, 15-minute max to do some grafting, and then we'll break.